flow.
Welcome to episode 95 of the Gluttons For Punishment Podcast, or GFP, a Toronto Maple Leafs and NHL podcast hosted by Michael Lepore and Anthony Bruno. Thank you so much for listening and watching us on YouTube as well. The Toronto Maple Leafs still sit in second place in the Atlantic Division behind the Boston Bruins. I sound like a broken record. I say the exact same thing at the start of every podcast because nothing changes in the Atlantic Division and in the Metropolitan Division for that matter as well. But we have a lot to discuss on today's episode. The Leafs are coming off a huge bounce back win, beating the New Jersey Devils on the road without John Tavares and Ryan O'Reilly. Although it's been a little bit of a Jekyll and Hyde situation since they've made all the trades. So we're going to discuss the new look Leafs, the big win over the Devils, and then we're going to talk about the Eastern Conference wildcard race. Who are the two teams who are going to get in at this point? Because it is very, very tight. So I promise you want to stay tuned until the very end of this podcast. But before we get into all that, it is time to officially welcome in my partner in crime, Mr. Michael Lepore. How you doing, man?
Anthony Bruno, doing very well. As always, happy to be sitting here recording a pod. It's a beautiful day in Ottawa, Ontario, as Sens fans build their excitement for a playoff push. You can feel the buzz in the city. There's buzz. People are excited about puck. Episode 95 of the Gluttons For Punishment podcast. Shout out goes to Mikhail Abramov. And kind of funny and ironic that it's episode 95, and he's the only player in Leafs history to wear that number. And just a couple weeks ago, he was part of the Ryan O'Reilly deal. So thank you for your services, and thank you for helping us make the addition of a third line center. We appreciate what you did for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
And that centerman is now on LTIR with a broken finger.
Boom. Hashtag Leafs.
That is the most Leafs thing ever, but hopefully Ryan O'Reilly will be back before the start of the playoffs, and hopefully he won't have too much adjusting to do.
Yeah.
And he won't be scrambling right before the playoffs start to get back into Ryan O'Reilly form. All right, Lepore, let's dive right into this.
Let's do it.
Starting off with this huge win over the New Jersey Devils, because it was a little bit of a rocky road for the Leafs. Since our last podcast, they got destroyed by the Edmonton Oilers 5-2.
Yeah.
Like it was a bad game. They bounced back from that on the very next night, on the second half of a back-to-back, beating the Calgary Flames 2-1. But then, just an inexcusable 4-1 loss to Vancouver. They gave up two shorthanded goals on the same power play. Leafs Twitter was losing its damn mind. And then, just when you thought, it's going to get worse, Ryan O'Reilly on LTIR, John Tavares out of the lineup. It seems like the Leafs are afraid to say that he might have a concussion. They're saying that he's like under the weather, not feeling like himself. Anyway, very bizarre. He should be back for the next game against Edmonton, but he was out of the lineup. So you think on the road against the Devils, one of the best teams in the NHL, the Leafs are going to get murked in this game. And they found a way to win, Lepore. They got outshot 15-4 in the first period, but ended up winning 4-3. So what are your thoughts on the game against the Devils and how this team has looked over the last little stretch?
Well, I'll say it, man, and I said it right after the game last night. I think last night's performance was the best performance of the season. And you listed those reasons. Go over this game. Last game of a road trip. Ryan O'Reilly out. John Tavares out. We had Lafferty and Yarncroc on the second line. We're in New Jersey playing the best 5-on-5 team in the league. It was Timo Meier's first game at home. Everything was pointing to a New Jersey Devils win. And it was actually kind of shocking, but it's surprising when you see that the Leafs are an underdog when you go on the app, because it doesn't happen too often. So what happens? They play a great game, and it checked all the boxes, man. I mean, this is one of those games to me where people could look at the underlying numbers of the game or the shots and say, oh, the Leafs got fucking killed and they got lucky. No. I look at it and say this team was dealing with a lot. That was a gutsy win, man. Sammy was great. In that first period, he was ridiculous. We had timely scoring. Marner scores the shorty. Then when The Devils go up 3-2 on those 2 quick goals. You think, good effort, but they're not going to get rewarded. And then Kampf makes that bananas pass to Bunting. And then who else but Auston Matthews snipes home the winner in reg. And the game didn't even get to overtime. And that's where I was. And I'm sure a lot of Leafs fans were there too. I was hoping the game would get to overtime. Like even going into the third, like let's just get a point and get out of here. But to get 2 points under those circumstances, we don't see this very often, but bravo. That was a gutsy win.
That was such a big character win. I don't know if it was the best win of the season, but it was definitely a top 5 win this season, considering all those factors that we talked about. When Ryan O'Reilly and John Tavares were out of the lineup for this game, I thought we were going to get pumped by the Devils. Now, the Devils actually, as good as they are, they aren't that great at home.
Oh, really?
They have like the 16th best record in the NHL on home ice, but on the road, they're an absolute wagon. Okay. They have the best road record in the league. I believe they're 23-4-4 on the road. So as good as the Devils are, they're a little, they're not as potent at home, let's say. But, I still thought that they were going to destroy us, especially seeing that first period where they were just all over the Leafs. Samsonov was standing on his head. But what a character win to bounce back after that 4-1 loss to Vancouver. And also, like, Luke Schenn wasn't in the lineup either. Not like Luke Schenn is some integral part to this team and its quest for the Stanley Cup. But, he's dealing with the birth of his child. So there were so many things going on. And you thought it just set up perfectly for, like, here we go. We're going to get pumped by one of the best teams. And the Leafs, as they've been doing all year, Lepore, they just beat all the best teams in the NHL.
Apparently, yeah, we're good at it.
How do you explain this? All the shitty teams, the Leafs embarrass themselves and lose, and then they play all the top teams in the league and beat them. Like, go down the list. They have beaten every top team in the league this year.
Yeah.
It's wild to me. Like, the only, I guess if you even want to call them a top team that they haven't beaten and they've only played them one time and they're going to get a chance for redemption on Saturday is Edmonton. That's like the one team that they haven't beaten this year. And they might change that on Saturday. So amazing vibes all around right now. Leafs Nation taking a big sigh of relief. Looking forward, though, Lepore, how do you feel about this team? Now that the dust has settled, the trade deadline has passed, there's been all this roster turnover. Do you think this team is primed for a deep run in the playoffs?
Okay, so I like what I see. I'm going to be very, very careful here and very delicate. I like what I see. And to me, it's clear what this organization has been trying to do and what they were trying to do with the deadline. I think we're going to get a hard look game 1 of the playoffs. We're going to know right away where this team's at. And I know you could say that all the time, but I really feel that way. And what I was referring to when I said how it's obvious what this organization is doing, it's always going around Twitter, the Leafs record and statistics this year compared to last year. And the record is almost identical. But where you see the differences are they have far fewer goals scored and far fewer goals against. So they're playing games at a slower pace. But then you're also seeing that their defensive numbers and 5-on-5 numbers are increased. They're better. Okay. So to me, that's not an accident. This team said, okay, we want to be successful and we want to be successful at the right time. And by that, I mean the playoffs. We have to slow things down. So I think it's pretty obvious based on the numbers. Then you go into the trade deadline. Okay. They brought in Ryan O'Reilly, a depth center. They brought in McCabe, a defenseman who never gets scored on. He still hasn't been scored on as a member of the Maple Leafs. They bring in a couple guys who hit people. Lafferty Achari and Luke Schenn. So this team, as far as I'm concerned, or as how I see it anyway, is going to try to win with soccer scores. Last night's game, to me, is a perfect example. I mean, it ended up being 4-3, but it was a low-scoring game going into the third period. That game against Vancouver, low-scoring game, 2 shorties against. The win against Calgary is like the microcosm of, I think, what this team is trying to do.
100%.
Low-scoring, secure win. If I'm not mistaken, too, was Calgary's goal a shorthanded goal? And it came off it jumped off Gustafson's stick. It was either a shorthanded goal or it was a turnover for a breakaway, whatever it was. But So like they didn't really get scored on. It was a mistake.
It was shorthanded.
Okay,
Blake
so it was
Coleman, he grabbed the puck that, as you said, it jumped over Gustafson's stick at the point, and he came in on a breakaway and roofed it.
Yeah, so it wasn't even as if like they got scored on 5-on-5. It was a mistake and shorthanded. But yeah, so can they do it that way? Can they win that way? I guess the plan is to play this style and to know that they have enough talent that they can get timely goals, kind of like they did last night, right? One for Marner, one for Matthews. Nylander set up with the two others. So the stars came out to play. So I see that as the strategy. As to whether or not this will help them get past the Tampa Bay Lightning and then the Boston Bruins, I think we're going to find out in a hurry. I think we're going to know pretty quickly too. And if we're getting ahead of ourselves now, but let's say the Leafs beat Tampa, we'll know based on how the series goes, or we're going to have a hard feeling as to whether or not the Leafs have a chance against the Bruins, or if Leafs fans will be confident. Like, I'm not going to say, oh, we got to steamroll Tampa to feel good about it. But to me, it's more of a style thing and how they win.
Lepore, I laugh all the time at some of the takes that I see on social media and on television of the people who still believe that the Leafs are like this high event, all offense, no defense type of team. You nailed it, man. And we've been harping on this all season. Their defensive numbers across the board are better. You know, whether you're looking at goals against, shots against, the underlying numbers like 5-on-5 goals against per 60, 5-on-5 expected goals against per 60, team save percentage, 5-on-5 save percentage. Like, everything is better across the board. And offensively, they have taken a little bit of a step back. Right now, in terms of goals per game, the Leafs rank 8th in the NHL. So not horrible. It's not like they're like middle of the pack, below average, but this team's always been like in the top 5. Like, you go back over the last 5 years, this team has ranked 6th, 3rd, 4th, 3rd, and 5th in goals against per game. So they sit 8th right now. That is the lowest they have ranked in goals per game over the last 6 seasons.
There you go.
And you said it, man. Just go look at the schedule this year. They have played a lot of tight games, a lot of 1-goal games. Like, they're not blowing teams out. They never get blown out. Like, when they lost 5-2 to Edmonton, that was an anomaly. That never happens to the Leafs, where they just get run out of the building. They lose the possession battle, the shot attempts. I mean, obviously you have Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl on the other side, and they can do that to any team on any given night. But the Leafs never, ever get blown out. They are pretty much in every game. And you said it, man. That game against Calgary was the perfect example. I think that's what they are striving to be in the playoffs. And I'm not saying they want to win every game 2-1, but they want to be comfortable winning those low-scoring, tight-checking games with not a lot happening on either side. They want to clog up the neutral zone. They want to keep teams to the outside. They don't want teams to get to the middle of the ice against them in the defensive zone. And I think all the additions to this team are going to help with that. And I like that they recognize that they needed to change the identity of this team, and bringing in all the guys they did, as we mentioned, Jake McCabe and Luke Schenn on the blue line, Lafferty, Achari, and O'Reilly up front. Those guys are going to be tough to play against. They know how to play in these tight checking games. They throw their weight around. And I'm not saying, Ryan O'Reilly's going to go out there and hit like 6 guys, but this is a dude who's won a Conn Smythe, who's had some great playoff success, who can play in the tight areas. Like, these are the things that they've been missing in past playoffs. And Lepore, they have like a 20-game runway to figure this out. I know it's less than 20 games. I believe that now they have 18 games left this season, but I think that's another thing Dubas kept in mind is like, I'm going to turn over this roster, and it might seem a little bit drastic, but we have a quarter of the season to figure this out and get right before the playoffs.
Yeah, I laughed at that take. And that's already, if they lose in the playoffs in the first round, that's going to be the immediate take. This team wasn't ready. They didn't have time to gel. There was no cohesiveness. It's all about knowing your teammates and your line mates. Tampa Bay's been together for years. That's horseshit. It's like 20-something games left in the schedule when those deals were made. It's a quarter of a season. And people who follow like hockey coaching and the geek stuff of like how teams play, I've been told anyway, there's like 2 or 3 systems that are run in the National Hockey League in terms of on-ice systems that every coach uses. So it's not like you're going in and you're like, what do I do? You know what I mean? So I hated that take.
It's time for a quick break for a word about Manscaped. Spring has sprung, and our friends at Manscaped have the best tools for some spring cleaning. They've already helped you tidy up all the nooks and crannies of your body's basement, but this year Manscaped can help you get the perfect presentation on that beautiful face with the new Beard Hedger Pro Kit. Make sure you look your best this spring by using our exclusive promo code GFP20 for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. Lepore, they just never miss. It doesn't matter what products they come out with, they're always helping all of us men who desperately need it.
Yeah, like Bruno, look at this beard. Look at this beard. Just perfection. Look at the lines, the perfect length. It would not be possible without the beard hedger. Manscaped's always got it locked down, whether you're shaving your balls or cleaning up your face or spraying on something that makes it smell good. They do not mess around. Head to the Manscaped website, GFP20 promo code for 20% off and free shipping.
You said it, Lepore. You got to look your best, whether it's the face, whether it's down below. Do the right thing. Respect yourself. Look presentable. Look your best. And you're going to perform at your best no matter what you're doing in life, all right? Save 20% off and free shipping using GFP20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with our exclusive promo code GFP20 at manscaped.com.
But I will say, man, we look at the last two games the Leafs have played. Even though they lost against Vancouver, and it was an embarrassing loss with the two shorthanded goals against on one power play, Murray was good. He was maybe even very good. That save he made in the second period, maybe one of the saves of the season. And Sammy was a star last night. Okay. If both are healthy going into the playoffs, in your eyes, who's the starting goalie?
You know, it's funny. I literally just had this conversation with my barber this morning.
Oh, nice.
And
you look amazing, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Shout out to Luca.
There you go. Free advertising, Luca. Oh, Luca from Woodbridge is a barber. I'm shocked.
But yeah, no, it's an interesting question, Lepore, because this goes back to what we talked about on like a show that we did in September. You know, we talked about who do you think is going to be the guy when it matters? Is it going to be Samsonov or Murray? As well as Murray played in that loss to Vancouver and some of the crazy saves he made, this is Samsonov's net.
Ooh.
I think it's his net, especially if the Leafs get home ice advantage in the first round and this thing starts at Scotiabank Arena, where Ilya Samsonov has been an absolute monster this season. So even if Matt Murray plays really well down the stretch, and I was originally in the Matt Murray camp.
Me too.
But this guy's been injured. He hasn't been as reliable. He hasn't been very good at home either. I was checking Matt Murray's home road splits. He has like an 888 save percentage at Scotiabank Arena.
Awesome.
Samsonov has been incredible on home ice. He's had the better season. He's been more reliable. I know he's had some shaky games and he hasn't been that great at times, but I'm still rolling with Ilya Samsonov as of right now in game one of the playoffs.
Yeah, goaltending is so funny because any other position, you can really and truly dissect the numbers, and like because numbers can be inflated, numbers can not be as high as they should be based on expected goals and that stuff. But I've always said with goaltending, no, the numbers are the numbers, and I'll use Samsonov as an example. Here he is with a 915 save percentage, which is not incredible, but whatever, it's fine, it's solid / fine. And his record is 22-8-2. Okay, on the season. So if someone was to question Sammy right now, and of course you can say, oh, well, let's see if he does it in the playoffs. But if someone was to question what he's done this year, I would say, well, what numbers would he have to put up to impress you? He'd have to be like a 9.25 and have like 4 regulation.
Would he have to be a Vezina candidate?
That's essentially you? That's essentially the next level he would be at if you bumped up his numbers to a noticeable level. So as it stands now, like I think all Leafs fans would agree, and we've said on the show before, this is what Dubas was going for when he made these deals. If he does what he's done in the regular season, and I think I even said 9.15, get a 9.15. they'll be ecstatic. It's not going to lose them games, right? So I'm intrigued. It's just, I just hope there's no questioning with it. If it keeps going the way it's going and we decide on Sammy, and maybe I'm being selfish now, I'm being an insecure Leaf fan. I don't want to hear the bullshit about we should have played so-and-so, blah, blah, blah. Murray had the experience, or Sammy, why'd we take the keys away from him? Like, whatever it is, I just hope it plays out and one guy outplays the other and it's obvious, right?
What will be interesting to see is if Samsonov is the game one starter against Tampa, and let's say Tampa wins the first game 3-1, and maybe Samsonov wasn't that sharp, then what do the Leafs do? Do they stick with Samsonov, or do they immediately just give the net to Matt Murray? That'll be interesting to see. Like, do you think that they would just make a switch like that, like no questions asked for game two, if Samsonov doesn't have a great game one?
I think you got to go with the guy you go with, because then what happens the second game if Murray doesn't play well? So I think when it comes to game one of the playoffs, you have to give the guy the keys. And if he shits the bed, yeah, then we're in desperate times, call for desperate measures. You make the switch. But like you said, a 3-1 loss, a tight game loss, maybe a one softie or something. Nah, if your confidence is that low on the goalie you started game one in the playoffs, you don't stand a fucking chance.
Yeah, you said it, man. I think if you're going to hand the keys to one guy at the beginning of the playoffs, you probably shouldn't let one game change your mind. But the Leafs seem to be in a very interesting situation. And I don't think many teams are honestly in the same spot where, you have a guy in mind who's played better all year, but then you also have a guy sitting on the bench who's won 2 Stanley Cups and who's also had a pretty good season.
Yeah.
It's an interesting spot to be in. Whereas with Tampa, we know it's Vasilevsky. With the Bruins, I mean, the Bruins have 2 good goalies, but we know it's going to be Allmark. We know the New York Rangers are going to be rolling with Shesterkin. Same with even Carolina. It's most likely going to be Freddie Anderson unless he completely shits the bed. Whereas the Leafs are in kind of an interesting little spot here. But we'll deal with that when the time comes.
Yeah, I like that, I mean, now we're getting way ahead of ourselves. The Toronto Maple Leafs play the Carolina Hurricanes in the 3rd round. I'm confident against Freddie. Because Freddie, I don't know, man. Like, he showed us anyway, like mentally he can lose it. So playing his old team, all that pressure, 3rd round, like I would take that. I'd take Freddie Anderson. We're getting ahead of ourselves now, but we like to do that on the show. Something that crossed my mind, and I saw other people kind of dance with this idea, how we acquired that 1st round pick for Rasmus Sandin with the Washington deal. Let's say we go into the playoffs, whatever happens. Let's say the Leafs lose in the 2nd round to the Bruins, and Sammy's the guy. Sammy does very well, and he's the younger one. We're going with him. Does Dubas in the offseason trade that 1st round pick for someone to take Matt Murray? And was that his idea in attaining that pick? Get me that pick, so if I want to move this guy, I can.
It's definitely possible. It wouldn't be the first time we saw Dubas move a 1st round pick to get out of a contract.
Yeah. Or would you have to? I guess that's my follow-up question. Would you have to move a 1st round pick to get rid of Murray?
Maybe not, considering next year
he's still a goalie. Yeah, like
next year, the final year of Murray's contract.
Yeah, he's got 1 more year left.
Now I'm losing my mind. I feel like I check cap friendly all the time.
Yeah, he's got 1 more. He's got 1 more year left after this one, Bruno.
Yeah, 1 more year at just over $4.6 million. So you probably don't have to attach a 1st round pick, but we've seen Dubas trade his 1st round pick. We have seen Dubas move down in the draft because really we've talked about this countless times. And Lepore, you have beaten the drum on this like since we started this podcast like over 2 years ago. When you're picking at the bottom of the 1st round, or let's say within the last 10 to 12 picks, there's no surefire thing. It's not like you're getting a guaranteed NHL player.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of options. I will say this, though, Lepore, I am a little concerned seeing Rasmus Sandin absolutely light it up with the Washington Capitals. 5 points in 2 games. He just played 25 minutes. He's running the power play with John Carlson out.
Yeah.
Man, oh man, he looks good with the Caps right now.
I don't know. That first game, and I'm rooting for Rasmus. I hope things work out for him. That first game, yeah, he got 3 assists. What was it? They put up 8 goals. It's okay. The team put up 8 goals, and the puck moving defenseman got 3 points. And then, yeah, he had a good performance the other night. that's a talking point. Again, we exaggerate things in Leafland. People are freaking out that we let go of like the next Swedish two-way defenseman. I think Sandin's a capable player. I think he's got a decent ceiling and what he can be for a team, but he's not the type of player, to me anyway, that we're going to look back at and be like, holy fuck, we blew it. Letting go of this guy, franchise defenseman. Because people forget too, I always make the point, there's a cap. So like you make a trade and you acquire something else instead. It's not like you could have acquired that thing and just build up, keep building. No, you have a cap. So I'm not going to say that losing players. Well, I will say, I mean, compared to when there was no cap, yeah, losing players is not as significant as it used to be. And I'm not trying to make it sound like it's completely insignificant, but I think there's a small category of players that you can really look at and say, wow, that was a big mistake. That I should say the players who aren't replaceable. Like, that's the question I'll pose to everyone and comment down below. Yes, no, if you agree with me or not. Is Rasmus Sandin the type of player? And will he get, say, I guess based on the salary too, but is he the type of player where 4 years from now, we could be like, wow, we don't have that and we can't get that. That's irreplaceable. That'll be shocking if he goes that high, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah. Considering that he's getting the chance to run the power play and getting all the ice time he's getting in Washington for a team that has essentially conceded the season and has waved the white flag and said, all right, we're just going to wait till next season. Like, it's not that surprising to see him flourish. It is surprising to see him get 5 points in his first 2 games.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to be a massive mistake. Like, I don't think this guy's going to turn into, like Cale Makar or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
So I think the Leafs have plenty of options on the blue line. I think they're going to be fine from, a defensive standpoint on the blue line and even an offensive standpoint, because say what you want about Gustafsson, but he's kind of like their secret weapon that they can bring in. Let's say if the power play kind of cools off, they could take Riley off the top unit and insert Gustafsson. Maybe that creates a spark. So they have some options. They definitely have more like defensive-minded defensemen now, but they also have some options if they want to spice things up offensively. Lepore, before we move to the next topic about the playoffs, we talked about this on our last show. I kind of wanted to bring it up again.
Sure.
How are you feeling about Auston Matthews right now?
Oh,
I saw a tweet the other day. I was laughing. They're like, the most unpredictable thing about this season is how Auston Matthews just suddenly became bad at hockey.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think? Are you worried about this guy? I know he just scored the game-winning goal against New Jersey, but I still think this team is going to go as far as Auston Matthews and Mitch Marner take them. And I hope this guy is firing on all cylinders. It seems like he could be turning a corner at this point, but do you still have any concerns about the way he's been playing?
I mean, of course. I mean, you could say it's his worst season he's had in the National Hockey League. And again, Twitter, right? Everyone's making because McDavid's having a historic season. So remember when people thought Matthews was better than McDavid? It's like, here we go. But I just think we've had enough of a sample of Auston Matthews over the first few years of his career that something is wrong. Something is wrong. Come on. And even like scoring's up in the league this year, right? Like people were saying at the end of last year, could this guy get 70 in a season? Now he's probably not even going to get 40, which I mean, that's a standard we've set for him, but that's allowed based on how much he's paid. Am I concerned? Yeah, because I think something is wrong. Like I think he's hurt and we don't know about it. And then the whole debate comes in like, well, if Auston Matthews is hurt, number one, why is he playing? Let's rest him. Or maybe it's an injury that needs more time. So then it's like, hey, well, you just have to run with it and we can deal with it in the offseason. But then if you do that, should we have made the moves we made knowing Matthews wasn't going to be at 100%? So it's a talking point, but I think Leafs fans are blind if they're just watching games and thinking, yeah, he's just lost a step or there's something. No. That he's got, I mean, we're going to find out after, I'm sure, like he's dealing with like a broken rib or one of those injuries hasn't completely healed. Because to me, it's obvious. We've seen this guy dominate for too long, way too long. Just take over games. I was lucky enough to be at the game last year against Detroit when he scored the 2 goals to hit the 60 goal mark. And you're just watching him. You're like, he's going to do it. So he was just buzzing every time he got the puck and loaded his stick. It was just an absolute rifle on the net. And that's what we're used to seeing. And we can probably count on one hand how many times we've seen him look that good this year. So I think am I concerned? Yes. I think he's hurt, man. What do you think, Bruno?
Yeah, I'm still a little bit concerned as well. I think he's dealing with some injury stuff. And as you said, we're probably not going to find out the full extent of that until after the season.
Yeah.
We're sure as hell not going to find out before the playoffs or during the playoffs when everything gets hidden by all these teams. But I think you nailed it, man. I just don't think he has that same explosiveness and game-breaking ability we're used to seeing on a night-to-night basis. Like, over the last 2 years, going back to the shortened 56-game season and going back to last season, on a night-to-night basis, Lepore, like, he was unbelievable from shift to shift, game to game, creating, like, it seemed like he would create, like, 8 to 10 scoring chances a game.
To me, he was slam dunk the second best player in the league, offensively anyway, like slam dunk.
Whereas this year, it seems like he's not getting to the same spots. He doesn't look as dangerous with his shot. He doesn't look as fast. And Auston Matthews has never been like a straight line burner, but he just doesn't look as explosive as he has in the past. Like, he's never been a bad skater. He's always been a good skater. He's just never been on the level of like a Connor McDavid type skater. So again, we've talked about how maybe he's been focusing more on his defensive game this year, but I think there's more to it. I think he is dealing with something, and I'm just hoping that when the playoffs come around, this guy is ready to take over games. Now, it is nice to see William Nylander have his breakout season and be on pace for 95 to 100 points, and he can take over a game. Mitch Marner can take over a game. But if you have those two guys playing the way they're playing now, because they're the ones who on a night-to-night basis are like jumping off the screen to me, Lepore. It's Mitch Marner and William Nylander. Like, when they have the puck on their stick, you're like, some magic is about to happen here. Like, they can create something out of nothing. Whereas Matthews hasn't really been on that same level. But if he can get close to the Auston Matthews we have seen, and you have those three guys heading into the playoffs capable of changing a game at any moment, that's going to be a tough thing to deal with, man. Even if you're the Boston Bruins on pace for the greatest season of all time.
Yeah. Here's a talking point. I guess a lot will depend on the playoffs, but as we all know, Matthews will be set this summer to sign his contract extension, July 1. We all know. I can't wait to turn on TSN and Sportsnet the morning of July 1 to hear the takes about Auston Matthews' contract extension. Again, a lot of it will be based on how he performs in the playoffs. If he lights up the playoffs, this regular season doesn't matter. But as we stand right now, does this motivate him to sign right away? Because and the reason I'm asking that is I'll pose the question. Okay, so let's say he finishes with, like, say 36 goals this year, 38 goals this year. And then he says, you know what? I'm going to play my year out next year and I'm going to hit free agency, or I want to play my year out for the Leafs. Could that cost him money? If we get 2 straight years of this, could he feel it in the wallet? Or no, it's going to take his one team to give him $15 million a year. It doesn't matter.
If he decides, first of all, if he decides to not sign his extension and play out the final year of his contract, he's leaving. Like, he's gone. And I would be terrified. And I think the Leafs would be terrified. And all Leaf fans would be frightened by that. But if he plays out the final year of his deal, Lepore, and he has like another 36 goal season and he's not scoring at his usual like 50 plus goal pace, that's definitely going to hurt his wallet. And look at what David Pastrnak just signed for. $11.25 million. It's interesting because you have some people being like, oh, he could have got more. Some people are saying it was there are even some people saying like, oh, look, like this is not really an overpay, but it's a lot. Like, I think Pastrnak got exactly what he's worth. He's now one of the top 5 highest paid forwards in the league. He's one of the best goal scorers in the world. I think that contract, and I'm hoping that contract sort of sets the bar moving forward for these Leaf contracts. Especially, let's say the Bruins make a deep playoff run. Let's say they win the cup. How can you be Matthews, Marner, or Nylander and be like, I want more than David Pastrnak? After Pasternak's going to score like 50-plus goals and potentially win a Stanley Cup. So I would have been very concerned if Pastrnak became the highest paid player in the league and they gave him more than McKinnon. and he signed for like 13 million.
Yeah.
But I think regardless of what happens, Lepore, I think these next wave of contracts for the Leafs are going to stay in a very reasonable range. And maybe Matthews is the exception to that if he goes back to the old Auston Matthews and asks for 13 million. But I think Marner's going to want something in that range, 11 million. Same with Matthews. And then Nylander, he's the big X factor. Who knows? Like, he can get anywhere between 9 and 11 million, and I don't think anyone would be surprised. Yeah. But I don't think to make my point perfectly clear here, I don't think anything is going to drastically change what these guys are going to get based on whatever happens over the next 2 years. I think they're sort of going to be locked into that range.
Yeah. I actually said to a buddy of mine that in a weird way, that Pasternak deal saved our ass. It saved our ass. Because had he, whether it was with the Bruins or in free agency, become like the highest paid player in the league, or just about with McKinnon, or been in even that 12 range, that would have fucked us. Because then Marner, Matthews, all of them, like Nylander has very good numbers this year. They all would have been reaching for the moon now. And I mean, they're going to get raises. Like, that's the thing. Like, I think we've been kind of lucky. I mean, COVID's been a kick in the nuts for the Leafs with the cap not going up based on those guys, based on when those guys signed. But at the same time, it's helped us because the cap hasn't gone up. So at the end of the day, it's not necessarily about how much you're getting, it's percentage of the cap. So if this cap kept going like it did, these guys would be asking for more money because it'd be adjusted to the percentage of the cap. But the way it stands now is that it has not gone up, but people are kind of assuming that it will start to creep up. I think they've already said it's going up, 1 or 2 million next year, and then it'll keep going up. So if we sign these guys now-ish in the next year or two for long extensions, it could help. But I don't know. But like I was grateful for that Pasternak deal. Like, I was very, very nervous about that one. Really nervous. What's the number for you, man? Like, people can talk about this all day. What's the number for that? And I'll say it for Matthews or Marner, that you would just say no. Like, someone's going to do it, but we're not going to do it. It's just too much for one guy. What would be the number?
The number would probably be 13 plus. Like, if they're both asking for 13 million to become the highest paid players in the league, I don't know how they can do that, especially if they don't produce in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, I guess that's a key. If they don't produce, yeah.
And like, they could be point per game players in the first round like they were last year. But if they don't get out of the first round, I don't know how you sit in negotiations and say, I deserve a $2-3 million raise from what I was making previously. Like, I don't know how you can do that at that point, especially now when a lot of these stars from around the league have been locked into their long-term deals. I don't know how you then ask for 13 plus million, especially if they don't get out of the first round. Lepore, if they get to the conference final, the Stanley Cup final, I think the playoff performances are what's going to give them leverage at that point. I think really that's the only thing that can give them more leverage at this point is what they do in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 100%.
How about you? Like, what's the number? Like, if Matthews came in and said, I want 14 million, are you saying like this is insane?
I think about 13 because I think Matthews, I think he's going to get the belt. I think he's going to be the highest paid player in the league. So I'm picturing it being around there. And I want it to be 8 years this time because then you get him for like, the rest of his mid to late 20s and into his early 30s. But this is how I've been looking at it, Bruno. And like, this is total Leaf fan talk. So, okay, so we'll agree 13 million is reasonable. Like, would you sign them both tomorrow for 13 million, 8 years?
Matthews, I would say yes. Marner, I mean, I love Marner too, but I just don't know if Marner can command that same money.
You just caused the debate, man, because people are loving Mitch Marner lately.
I love Mitch Marner too, but the fact that Matthews is a center, he's proven himself to be essentially the best goal scorer in the world since he entered the league. I think that gives him just a little bit more leverage than Mitch Marner. As much as we all love the guy, I think he deserves more.
Okay, so we'll just say 13 million because an average of 13 million each between the two of them. Okay, Willie, what's the number that you think is like that's as high as I'll go?
10.
10's my number too. So now you're at 26 million, 36 million. Okay, Tavares' extension.
What's Tavares at this point of his career? you would hope that he would understand that he's not worth $11 million anymore, but you got to think he's still going to probably want like $8 million.
8 million? Oh, he's not getting
8 million.
Oh, no. We're not doing that. No way,
So
Bruno.
you're only re-signing Tavares then if he asks for like 5 million.
Bro. I think you could even do less, man.
Really?
I'm calling out JT on the hometown GTA discount. We gave this guy like the biggest free agency contract in the history of the league. He slowed down. It is an overpay based on production and the rest of the league. My point with all this is this: I could see it being like, and when I say a discount, like he's not going to do a Giordano because he's still effective and
or
he's
a
not
Spezza.
he's not that old. But my thing is like maybe he signed for like 4 or 5 million. So let's say like a 3-year, $12 million deal or something like that. Maybe then he takes the big discount later. At the end of the day, for those 4 guys, our 4 highest paid guys, it adds up to be the same. So again, my reference
still
earlier,
around 40 million.
So my reference earlier to percentage of the cap, in a few years that could look really, really good. I mean, we're doing it now, and we're 4th in the league now. So, I mean, Tavares will slow down, but if he's getting that much less, I'll take it. But 8 million, man. No, 8 million, John, you're gone, man. Because the thing is, too, 8 million, you have to expect term. And would you say if John Tavares was in free agency this summer, someone would give him like an 8 times 5?
I think so.
Oh, fuck.
I think there'd be a team out there that would, because he's not that old, Lepore. He's 32. He's still around a point per game player. He's having a good year. He's the captain of the team. I don't think this guy is going to take like a huge pay cut. He'll take a pay cut, of course, but I don't think he's going to take as big of a pay cut as people might think.
I think who would do it though? Like that's what I'm trying to think. I don't think a competitive team would do it. Like we're going to talk about them in a bit. Stützle just signed for 8. Stützle is going to be making $8 million a year for the next 8 seasons starting next year. I think we'd all agree that John Tavares is not Stützle right now. So imagine in 4 or 5 years, not even close. That's where I see it. I look at these guys getting these deals and they're young guys. They're in their prime. John Tavares is past his prime. And I love him. I think he's a great player. And before I said an overpay, I don't think it's a crazy overpay. I just think it's a free agency signing. So that's what you do. But I'll be intrigued. It's going to be a storyline for sure. But what I'm hoping anyway, the number between the 4 of them kicks it around 40 million.
Yeah. And you know what? You're probably pretty bang on. Like it's probably still going to be in that $40 million range, just shifting money around. Nylander's going to get more. Tavares is going to get less. Matthews and Marner going to get a little bit of a raise. And it's probably going to be around the same percentage of the cap, especially if it continues to go up.
Yeah.
Anyway, Lepore, let's move on to our next and final topic of today's show.
Juicy.
The Eastern Conference wildcard race is pretty wild right now because the Ottawa Senators are making a charge. They've been one of the hottest teams in the league, even though they just lost 5-0 to the Chicago Blackhawks.
Slide that in, eh, Bruno?
Slide that in real quick for all the Senators fans out there who can't stand me.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're making a charge. Buffalo's right there, an exciting team. Tage Thompson, Rasmus Dahlin. And then you have the old stalwarts of the East, the Pittsburgh Penguins and the New York Islanders, who are just always there. They always make the playoffs. They're always in the mix. They hold the 2 wildcard spots right now. The Islanders are in the first wildcard spot, although they've played 3 more games than Ottawa, than Buffalo, and Pittsburgh. And then Florida's in the mix too, Lepore. They're ahead of Ottawa and Buffalo, but they have also played more games as well. So with around 18 to 20 games to go here, who are going to be the 2 wildcard teams in the East? I need you to pick them right now.
It's tough, man. It's tough. My first instinct, and this is going to sound so lame, but my first instinct is when I look at the standings, I think it's going to stay the way it is. I think the Penguins and the Islanders are going to hold on. And that's not to take away from Florida, Buffalo, and Ottawa. Like they've done a great job challenging for this thing, but Pittsburgh, based on like when you look at the games remaining and this and that, Pittsburgh's pretty solid in. Like it would take something pretty disastrous for them to miss out. And then with the Islanders, like people talk about the games at hand, but you got to win them. And Ottawa's got a fucking murderer's row of a schedule coming up, and who knows, maybe they could keep going on their hot streak. But I just think like the mindset of the Islanders, the position they're in, I just don't think they're going to blow it. And they are an experienced group, to be fair, right? So, yeah, I hate to be lame. I wish I could say I think this team's going to go on a run and get in, but I think it's going to be the Islanders and the Pens. Who you got, Bruno?
Lepore, I am sorry to tell you that I am just as lame as you. I think it's going to stay the same too. And you mentioned it with Ottawa, and I know they're one of the hottest teams in the league, and everyone's getting excited about the Senators, and they just got Jacob Chikrin, and Stützle's taking his game to the next level, and Giroux's been great, but they have an insanely difficult schedule down the stretch.
It's psychotic, yeah.
And not only is it a very tough schedule, they got to rip off like a crazy winning percentage to get in, because they have all these teams ahead of them. And you're telling me with the murderer's row that they have, like, I can just go down the list of teams that Ottawa's playing coming up here for all the Senators fans that are getting excited. Seattle, Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, Colorado, Toronto, Pittsburgh, Boston, Tampa, New Jersey, Florida. And then towards the end of the season, the last 5 games, Carolina, Florida, Tampa, Carolina, and Buffalo. Every team that they are playing is either already locked into a playoff spot or fighting for a playoff spot.
Yeah.
And you're telling me that they're going to rip off like a 750 points percentage in that time? Like, that's basically what they have to do to get into the playoffs. So I think it's going to be tough. Even though the Islanders have played more games, they've been playing well. As you said, they have the experience. I trust that Crosby and Malkin are going to get the Penguins into the playoffs.
Exactly. I'm not betting against Sid.
So as fun as it is to root for the Sabres, who are such an exciting young team, as fun as it is to root for the Senators, and then you have Florida lurking there too, I think it's going to end exactly as you see it right now. I don't know if the Penguins are going to have the first wild card spot. Maybe they're going to flip-flop with the Islanders, but I think those are the 2 teams that get in, as lame and as boring as we sound right now.
Yeah, the thing is, though, it's funny, right? Because I look at it and I say, okay, I'm picking the Islanders and Penguins to hold on. So you'd think that means, well, I think they'd be the tougher out in the playoffs, but I don't feel that way. I really don't. I think if I'm Boston or Carolina, I don't want a fucking thing to do with the Ottawa Senators or the Buffalo Sabres. If Ottawa does get in, okay, this team since like the start of December, they're like a top 5 team in the league. So if they continue on that pace and make it to the playoffs, you're literally playing a team that's among the best teams in the league the second half of the season in the first round. And then you pile to that. They're a young group, a skilled group that'll have nothing to lose. That's a recipe for disaster, man. I would not want a fucking thing to do with the Senators, less so the Sabres. But what I'll say about the Sabres is that's not a building I want to go into in the playoffs. Weird things can happen when you have a crowd like that. So, yeah. I think the Bruins and the Hurricanes are really hoping that our predictions are right and they end up with the Islanders and the Penguins.
And I'm sure Bruins fans are saying like, if we have to play the Senators in the first round, big deal. But it gives me a lot of Leafs 2017 vibes. You have all these young guys who have never been to the playoffs before, who are just starting to find their rhythm in the NHL. Tim Stützle taking that leap in year 3. Like, that's a team that's playing with house money, man. If you're Carolina or Boston, as great as they have been this season, and it's the same thing with the Sabres. They're playing with house money too. Those are terrifying matchups because you could quickly find yourself in a track meet against both of those teams.
Yeah.
You could be going into a game thinking we're going to lock this down. It's going to be 2-1. Next thing you know, you look up at the scoreboard and it's 5-5 in the third period. And I don't want to be involved in anything like that.
Yeah, let's hope it comes to the end because it's tight. And as you mentioned, the Sabres and the Senators play each other the last game of the season, so that'll be awesome. But I'll ask you this, Bruno, and hockey's weird, man, because it seems like there's an obvious answer, but I don't think this is obvious. We play Tampa in the first round. The Leafs win. Boston plays Ottawa. Okay. Who are you cheering for in that series? Because it's easy to say, well, you're cheering for Ottawa because they're the 8th seed or whatever. But do you want to play a team that during the second half of the season was one of, if not the best teams in the league, and now has the confidence because they just beat the Bruins and that whole Battle of Ontario thing, like, so and the Leafs finally get out of the first round. I'll say it as a Leafs fan, I would not want Ottawa. And if I really think about it, I mean, you can't really say, well, I'd rather have Ottawa than Boston based on who the Boston Bruins are this year. But I wouldn't be, I'll put it this way. Normally, if I was in the Leafs position, and no, this is how I'll say it. If it was the Islanders, if Boston got the Islanders, and the Islanders upset the Bruins, and then we beat Tampa, and we beat the Islanders in the second round, I'd be doing backflips. I'm not doing that for the Senators based on how they got in and the type of team they are.
Yeah, with all the history between the Leafs and Senators, and I know the Leafs have owned the Senators in the playoffs, but that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
I want nothing to do with Ottawa in the second round. Like, also because there would now be an immense amount of pressure on the Leafs at that point. Like, if the Leafs get through the Lightning, and then they face Boston in the second round, everyone's like, well, Boston's having the greatest season of all time. They're so deep, no one can beat them. There's no pressure on the Leafs. If that suddenly becomes Ottawa, all the pressure goes back on Toronto. You're the better team now. You finally won a playoff series. You're playing a team that's never been here before. You are expected to win this series, and it seems like those are the times that the Leafs typically don't play their best hockey, and I would be extremely terrified.
And again, going into that second round, on the opposite side of what you just said, Ottawa's got nothing to lose.
Yeah, playing with house money again.
They're there. No one would expect them to. I mean, the betting market would be heavy on the Leafs. Leafs have home ice advantage again. It was like the Leafs finally got their break, right? And I mean, you'd be so scared just to fuck it up. So yeah, Sens, just do us a favor and don't make it at all. I'm semi-rooting for you. It wouldn't be too bad to see some playoff hockey in the city. Like I said, there's a buzz. But like as a selfish Leaf fan, I would not want to play them in any circumstances. So,
Lepore, we all know you have a soft spot in your heart for the Ottawa Senators.
I don't, though.
You do. You do a little bit. Yeah, but no, you said it, man. I want nothing to do with Ottawa in the playoffs. And, people have been coming at me recently being like, Bruno, you said the Senators are overrated and they stink and all that. Listen, everybody. I said at the beginning of the season they were overrated, which I believe they were, because I think a lot of people thought that they were going to get into the playoffs. I said the upside for that team, the ceiling for that team, would be competing for a wild card spot. And that's exactly the position they find themselves in now. But they also have a murderer's row coming up and have to pull off an insane winning percentage to make the playoffs. If they pull it off, Lepore, I will be the first one to sit here and applaud that team. Bravo. If they can get through the murderer's row they have coming up and, I don't know, go like 14-5, or I don't know how many games they have left. But if they can pull off a crazy record like that against all these great teams that are either already in the playoffs or fighting for a playoff spot, that's going to be fantastic. I just don't think they have quite enough to get it done. But Lepore, before we wrap up this podcast, is there anything else you want to get off your chest?
Oh, we got a lot off I feel like we got a lot off our chest this episode, Bruno. Just to my point earlier about how the Leafs have been playing as with regard to their style. I just hope it keeps going, and I hope they can keep those intentions straight. And like, it's clear there's a mission here, and that mission is a certain type of hockey. So I'm going to be paying very close attention to the next few games to see how it unfolds, especially with the next game being against Edmonton, because you can expect a track meet in that game. And as I said, the Leafs don't want that. So
yeah, I can't wait to watch this game against Edmonton, because Edmonton destroyed Toronto a few games ago. Matt Murray is the confirmed starter.
Oh, nice.
How is he going to look? Because, as good as he looked against Vancouver, now you have McDavid, who's having the greatest season since Mario Lemieux. Crazy. And Draisaitl, who's been on fire. The Leafs on 3 days of rest. Could they come in rusty? It's going to be a tough spot on Saturday. But as you said, if this team is different, and as we've talked about how they can lock games down defensively, if they can play that sort of tight game and limit McDavid and Draisaitl and win like a 3-1 game, I'll be very impressed. But down the stretch, I just want to see this team continue to gel. I want to see the new guys continue to get acclimated, find their rhythm, and hopefully it'll be full speed ahead come playoff time.
Let's go.
But that is going to do it for episode 95 of the Gluttons For Punishment podcast, or 95. GFP. a Toronto Maple Leafs and NHL podcast hosted by Michael Lepore and Anthony Bruno. Once again, if you're a new listener or a longtime listener and you really enjoy the show, please give us a 5-star rating and review on either Apple or Spotify. It would be a big time help. And if you're watching us on YouTube, we would appreciate it more than you could ever imagine. If you smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below, and smash the notification bell so you know exactly when the GFP podcast is posting some new content. So for Michael Lepore, I'm Anthony Bruno. Go Leafs go, and we will see you in the next one.
Thanks, everyone.
Flow.